Drasko, welcome to the Passion Project, buddy. Thank you so much for being here.
Mark, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So I'm going to ask you, because I'll butcher it, pronounce your full name for the group.
Drasko Bogdanovic.
And what's the heritage of your name?
Serbian.
Serbian.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to jump into that in a second. So let me set the stage kind of high level here. So anybody that listens or anybody that knows me knows that, my passion is for a combination of things. The ocean, people doing really cool things, and talking story. And in this case, connecting the dots. And I'm really excited to connect the dots with you because I know bits and pieces, which tends to be the case on here. Even with my parents, as we were chatting about earlier, I learned stuff. I was like, hold on, what? So it's really fun to kind of understand where you started and then what got you here to today. And you've got some really cool stuff going. But shine a little bit more of a light on you, just for those that maybe don't know who you are. You are a lifeguard. We'll talk a lot about lifeguarding today because it's a big part of your current and future and this initiative you're doing. You're an EMT and paramedic. Is that right?
Correct.
Ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
You worked a 48-hour shift over the Super Bowl, which I'm sure was incredibly interesting. And you have this, and you're a creative. So you're a photographer. You have your own photography business. So you go from one pole to the other, and this new initiative you're doing, which is called the Lifeguard Project, a little preemptive strike there to let you know we're going to be talking a lot about it, is a combination of the two. So that's got to be pretty rad. And I can't wait to dig into that with you. So you just started by saying that your name is Serbian. Again, your name is, when I hadn't yet met you, I really didn't know, and we've known each other for a bit now, but I really didn't know who was going to walk in the door with a name like that. So why don't you tell the story? I don't know if you're first generation, what brought your parents here, if your parents just really love your heritage and kept the name going, but why don't you just talk a little story, what's the genesis of your name, Serbian, but where does that fit into your family, and how did you guys come to being here?
Yeah, pretty simple. I was born there.
You were born in Serbia?
Yeah, and my whole family flew over here and grew up here.
So
long story short, it's that's where I was born. That's why the name is there. There's no fifth, this, whatever generation. We moved straight over when I was about 6 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And Serbia, for those that don't know, you've got Serbia, you have Croatia, and that's all old Yugoslavia, right?
Mm-hmm, correct.
And believe it or not, I was in Croatia on a bit of an adventure tour just back in June with a couple guys that have sat in that chair, Mark Fuel and Mark Power. And what an incredibly beautiful country. We were way out, there's some beautiful coastal areas, but we were mountain biking and climbing through the middle of the country. And what was really amazing to me, and I know this is a history thing and maybe not what people were expecting,
No,
but
good.
I was blown away. I'd never been there. I didn't really know a lot about it. And the guys that were guiding us were ex-military during the war, 30 years ago. And I would say that 1 in 5, depending where we were, 1 in 5 to 1 in 10 homes or buildings were still shelled out, blown out. You could see all the evidence of war from 30 years ago. But it was stunning. And the little countryside communities that we would stop in on our mountain bikes were the coolest people. And it was just, I had an incredible experience there, and it was lovely. But you really got an eyes-on history lesson while you were there.
Yeah,
Super
absolutely.
neat. So you came over when you were 6.
Mm-hmm.
Are you dual lingual? Can you speak?
Yep. Yeah, I don't have I tell people I'm a street smart first grader in Serbian. So I can carry a conversation and stuff and got the language still, but...
What about your family? They still speak it regular? Is that their primary language at home?
Especially when they get mad too. It gets more Serbian than English.
You know when to run out the door?
Yeah.
That's really funny. What was the reason that they came over here, or you guys all came over here?
Long story short, it was during the time of the conflict there, and we were able to come over here during that time. It was a way to get out of there. So.
And where did you land here? Where did you guys, from Serbia to where?
Initially Sacramento for a year, and then San Diego is where I grew up.
Got it. Where in San Diego?
North County. So I was in
coastal, Encinitas, Cardiff, that area?
North County, yeah, and that's where I ended up lifeguarding too. But I went to San Marcos High School.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, so just inland, but it's 10, 15 minutes from the beach.
Got it.
It's a pretty crazy fate to just get plucked like that and put into San Diego for sure.
Amazing. And why California, of all places in the world that you could have immigrated to?
I'd have to ask my dad.
Got it. All right. Well, we talked about it earlier. This is a pretty cool
Get back
venue.
to you on that one.
That's funny. You should probably figure that one out.
Yeah.
All right. So San Diego boy. Do you have a nickname?
I think I know what you're referring to, but
So the lifeguards, just to set it up, what do the lifeguards call you?
lifeguards call me Bogdog because my last name is too hard to pronounce. And in an emergency situation, when you're usually referring to lifeguards by their last name, the emergency is going to be over by the time you pronounce the whole thing. So it's, for sure, it's just Bogdog.
Yeah. And also to set the stage on that, there's also, you're a creative, you have this photography business and a big part of what we're going to be talking about, but there's also a professional photographer with your exact same name that does a very different genre of art.
Completely different.
And so just be aware, if you want to find out more about about Drasko, we'll provide that at the end, because if you go to this other one, it's a renowned artist in Canada by way of Serbia, but has a very different direction.
Yeah, just look at the Lifeguard Project.
Yes.
Instead.
Yes. So hold on. What is it? The Lifeguard Project?
The Lifeguard Project .org.
All right. Keep that in your memory banks, because we will get back to it. So you're in school in San Diego. Sports is pretty big down there. You're a big water guy. Did water start early? What was the history with that with you?
Yeah, I did. So actually my first sport was gymnastics in middle school.
Got it. How long did you do that?
A few years, like competed, did all the stuff, but at that level.
Well, the reason I ask is you can tell to a degree on here if you're watching on YouTube, but you're jacked. And I didn't know if that came from, some of the gymnastics guys are gnarly, but who knows? Maybe it's just Serbian
leftovers
blood.
from middle school.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe you're still doing gymnastics. Hard to know. So.
No, that was my first sport in high school. I did consistently swimming and water polo and wrestling.
Got it.
And then but I've messed around with, like, when I was a kid doing, like, soccer and basketball and all that kind of stuff. So I was always involved with some kind of athletics.
How far did you go with swimming and water polo?
So San Marcos High School, when I went, that was the first year they were reinventing the water polo team at that school. So I started as a freshman, and we only had enough guys to we were playing JV and varsity. And so it was the development of the program there. So people, Serbia is one of the leaders in water polo in the world.
Because they're all built like you. Jack.
Yeah. Minus me not smoking cigarettes, but
it doesn't seem to slow them down.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it expands the lungs. It's science.
Yes.
So it was the beginning of a program. So for me, it was like that was learning. So we didn't really get to a point where we were like this, legendary team that had these generations of winning. We were like just getting beat up by varsity teams and JV teams because we were starting. But by the time we had a pretty good team at like 4 years through, we were doing pretty good. But it's nothing to write home about. You're not going to see San Marcos High School on the, top charts or rankings.
Well, it's interesting. So we are sitting in like the Newport Beach, Costa Mesa area. Newport Harbor High School is about a mile from here. Corona Del Mar High School is probably 3 or 4 miles. That's where I went. I played water polo in high school, but both of those schools are elite, like top of the top, and I was not. I found my way in the ocean. In the pool was not my strong suit. But,
swimming was the coach said, hey, you got to swim.
Yeah.
If you want to be on the water polo team. I was like, okay.
Me too.
And so, but it was good. It ended up being a good thing. So.
Yeah. My parents made me play a sport, and water polo, I was surfing a lot of the time. Water polo seemed like the natural one, but little did I know how elite it was. And a lot of my friends still today had been, growing up swimming and playing polo. So they were already light years ahead of me, and I never caught up. And my coach didn't like me very much, and I certainly didn't like him in return. So I never went that far, but it's what got me into the guarding game with the cadet program here in Newport Beach, and then that got me into prone paddling, and it all. So as much as I didn't like it, it definitely set the stage for me. I got super fit, and I've kind of stayed on the gym rat program ever since.
Absolutely.
So there was a lot of good that came from it. With you, what did it lead directly? I know we're jumping in. Did it take you straight into the guarding thing?
Yeah, so I've got an interesting. So my the kind of crew of guys we started as freshmen that went through swimming and water polo together. One of their dads was a lifeguard, and I was over at their house. We were hanging out. I don't know whatever we were doing. partying or something, just random weekend during the school year. And he goes, hey, you guys should try out to be lifeguards tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I go, what? I'm like, yeah, it's tomorrow morning. It's a great job. You can get paid to wear red trunks and wear sandals. And all you have to do is swim 1,000 yards tomorrow in under 20 minutes and then do a quick swim, run. And for us, I mean, a normal swim workout is
Sure.
much more than that. So we're like, oh, okay, that sounds easy. We've been going in the ocean and stuff. Like, okay, we'll do it. We'll show up. We'll wake up tomorrow and do it. And we did, and we passed and got the interview. So for me, that's how lifeguarding came about. Was, I don't want to say by accident, but I had no idea about it. And they're like, hey, it's tomorrow. Let's do it. Cool. Boom. There it is.
Got it. So you, that's one of the questions that you just answered. So it's always like, how did you end up in it? You're like,
Yeah.
fell in my lap, and then I accomplished it. It's interesting. So you didn't have a surf background or really much of an ocean background when you tried out for it, or were you guys spending a lot of time at the beach?
I started learning how to surf in high school. So for some definitions of the term for the most coastal communities, I'm a late bloomer when it comes to surfing and stuff. But I was always involved with the ocean. Like we were going to the beach as a family since I was a kid. So I was boogie boarding with fins on, body surfing, that kind of stuff. Surfing came in high school. So I was confident in the ocean and my swimming ability, but I wasn't like, doing any surf contests or
Right.
anything like that.
And how old were you when you went through the tryout and made it?
So that specific weekend I'm referring to, I was 15 and a half, and they put me through the whole process, interview and everything, not realizing that I didn't have my driver's license yet. And they're like, oh yeah, you actually can't do this. You don't have your driver's license yet. So the next year I went through when I was 16.
And that would have been after your sophomore year, or after your junior year?
Yeah, after the sophomore year.
Sophomore year.
Yeah, so my junior and senior year in high school, I was lifeguarding the summers.
And where were you lifeguarding?
I was lifeguarding those places you mentioned, so North County, San Diego. So at that time, there was a stretch from Torrey Pines all the way up to Carlsbad.
And is that state?
Yes, yeah, state parks.
So how old are you today?
Today I'm 30 years old.
You're 30, and you started guarding when you were 16.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been guarding consistently all the way through?
Yep.
Considering that it just, hey, you guys should try out tomorrow, to a half of your life you've been guarding. That's what if they hadn't, you ever think about it? What if that had not fallen in your lap that night, or you said, no, I don't want to go, or I have something tomorrow. Do you ever wonder if it would have gone a different direction?
Yeah, I mean, I even wonder what if I didn't get on the plane from Serbia to here, my life. So I wonder that every single day. And I think that's what's bringing me here, is because such little moments and things can become life-defining situations. From a lifeguard having a conversation to someone about, hey, that's a rip current, don't swim there. What if he just saved that whole family's life? Mm-hmm. Right? So much like what you're cluing into there is, yeah, absolutely. What a great, yeah, it happened by accident. Now I'm here doing a whole project about it. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about where it's taking you. I mean, what's really interesting is, as I said, I love to connect the dots, but oftentimes it's this kind of sliding doors thing, 1 degree of separation, where had I made a left turn here, God knows where I ended up. If my parents would have landed in St. Louis as opposed to San Diego, and maybe one day you'll find out why they decided San Diego, but who knows what you would be doing. So it's really just always interesting. I have the same thing with my parents. If my parents did not grow up here, and I was lucky enough to do so, but yeah, that one little pivot could have changed
Absolutely.
everything.
And I mean, look at the course of history, all the people that I think I'm going to invent this thing, but then it creates and changes an entire vast new direction. So yeah, I think it's rad.
So let's talk about your lifeguard service and where it's taken you. So you've guarded for 16 years
Mm-hmm.
for the state.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you focus today?
So right now, obviously I started through the whole rank, working in a tower, working in the units, doing a supervisory role there within the local place. And then I've gotten, since I've been doing it for a while, and nowadays there's less people that stick around that long, and we'll get into that why. But so I'm doing a lot of teaching stuff with lifeguarding as well. But also, lifeguarding was my gateway drug into EMS. or taking an EMT class and then eventually a paramedic program, and then teaching medical stuff too. So for me, it's kind of expanded to a lot more, and a lot of that's just kind of giving back through teaching is kind of where I'm at today. But I still work regular shifts, just part-time, because I'm trying to involve the project and balance all these other things. So it's not full-time anymore, but I'm very much involved with still the local district, and using that to teach and engage other people for it through physically, like showing up in the classroom and teaching CPR, or doing this project, creating media and creating stories to showcase lifeguarding on a bigger level as well.
That's
so
cool.
That's kind of where I'm at.
And that's the next piece when we talk about the Lifeguard Project, because I know it encapsulates a lot of that. But let's talk more, just help me understand, when you say teaching, what kind of teaching roles do you have on both? It sounds like on both the lifeguarding side and the EMS side. Mm-hmm. What does that look like? What are you teaching? How does that work?
Yeah, so I've been involved with the trainings that we hold from the local level for the state parks, that they transfer the whole state, all the people that get hired. And then at Cuesta College, I also teach the EMT program and help with the medic program, assisting with their skills sessions and stuff. Last week for the ambulance, we did a farmers market standby where we taught the public hands-only CPR. So from like directly, here's how you open your lifeguard rescue tube and put your fins on, to the public, hey, here's how you do hands-only CPR and why it's good for you. So teaching is, for me, kind of spans all of those aspects.
Really neat.
Yeah.
And you just touched on something that I had heard recently, but I didn't know that it was becoming this popular. But I was fortunate to have a meeting in which the Huntington Beach fire chief, which is also over water safety and lifeguard department, mm-hmm. Scott Haberly, amazing visionary guy, but he was telling how the junior guards in Huntington Beach have been pushed to get as many people trained. So these are junior guard kids, and they're doing hands-only CPR. They're teaching people on the beach, hey, come over here, let me show you this, and they're doing it on their backpacks, because from a water safety perspective, the more people that know, not just lifeguards, just the more people that know, the better off everybody is around them, right? And just because it's a fact I found incredibly interesting is that, and Chief Haberly said the same thing, or he said this, he's like, in Huntington Beach and Orange County, more drownings happen on the other side, the east side of the freeway, than on the coastal side. And it blew my mind, and it's happening in pools, and like it really, really, really blew my mind. So their focus is getting all the kids, as many as they can, to be capable of instruction and actively making a difference in those pool environments or creek or river, whatever it is. So really, again, for me that spends all my time around water, that one was a kind of a mind bender.
Well, and while we're on that subject too, I mean, I looked up a couple facts. If you Google drowning statistics for the World Health Organization, look up a place that has a good source to it or whatever, that, like, there's layers to this and what we're going to get into and stuff, but like the root of everything is that drowning is one of the top leading causes of death in the world. Wow. For the people like you and I who are involved in the water community, all that stuff, we paddle, we surf, we're in the ocean, we're body surfing, we're having fun. It's like what you just described, is you were been in this community, you've been paddling, you've been through all this stuff, and then he just gave you that fact. What is that? That's awareness, right? That's step one, is you're now becoming aware of something that's within your own community. You're like, wait, I never thought of it that way. But the point is, and why am I wasting my time talking about lifeguarding? Why am I still doing it half of my life later? Is that's what it's rooted in, is this is an actual problem in the entire world. And if you look up the statistics, all the statistics say we don't have enough statistics on this, and it's probably worse than this. And it's like, for kids, look it up. I don't want to butcher the statistics, but kids between 1 and 3, 3 and 5, 5 and 14, like the statistics there are almost that it's like the top 3 or something. Insane.
Heartbreaking.
And we're talking about places here that have lifeguards, that have awareness, that have junior guards teaching hands-only CPR to beachgoers, right? And it's still a very prevalent issue. And to break that down even further from a awareness of what drowning is these are things that happen within moments. And once again, on the World Health Organization, it says, it's a preventable injury that is almost solely reliant on the scene. Meaning, if you break your leg, you go to the hospital, there's steps to getting that leg fixed through the surgeon, the ER, etc. With drowning, you drop someone in water that doesn't know how to swim and they don't keep their airway above that water. You're stopping their breathing. Your brain cells stop working within 4 to 6 minutes or start, dying from the lack of oxygen. And if they're not extricated from that environment and resuscitated very quickly on the beach, that's it. Like, it's such a finite, quick thing. And that's why I think it's one of the leading causes throughout the world. And, without digressing too much, that's where it brings us back into. So that's what lifeguards are responsible. I think that injury in of itself is the extreme of what happens at the beach. But when it does happen, lifeguards play such a crucial role, and not just in physically taking the person out, but now what you're describing, awareness, teaching, inspiring the kids to teach people CPR. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. And for people that are walking around nonchalant going, oh yeah, I'm at the beach, another surf session. Like, no, the fact that a junior guard is teaching someone hands-only CPR that's been inspired to activate a kid to progress, to help save other people, that's incredible.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to throw a PSA, a public service announcement in here, because this was one of the other things that I learned through this meeting I was with Ben Carlson Foundation, with Huntington Guards and Newport Junior Guard Program, and Chief Haberly said this. And again, this is the PSA. He said that the majority of the drownings happen in backyard parties because there's a bunch of kids and a bunch of parents, maybe they're having drinks. Everybody seems like everything's good, and nobody's watching the water, and someone's at the bottom.
Yep.
Nobody's paying attention. And Chief Haberly commented on how they have this thing, which I think is world class, and I've mentioned to a couple people. They give one of the parents, they do like a revolving, Drasko, you're the lifeguard now. Here, you wear the lanyard, you've got the little badge, and you're in charge for the next 30 minutes. You're watching the water at this party. And I was like, I sign up. The next party that I go to, I'm it for the first 30. Like, I'm bringing a lanyard and I'm going to leave it there. Like, such a simple remedy that could make such a huge difference. Doesn't solve them all, but it solves a lot from my understanding. And I just was like, so sometimes it's just educating the public about the severity of the situation, and you just did with what the stats from the WHO. There's a lot that we can do by shining a light on it, and I know that that's what the Lifeguard Project is intended to do.
Yeah.
And we'll get there in a second.
And ask that parent who watches for 30 minutes how they feel afterwards.
Yeah, they go straight to the beer.
Right? It's tiring because your awareness is up, and then without digressing, now do that for 8 hours in a lifeguard tower with 1,000 people on the beach.
Well, I've told the story before. The reason I don't lifeguard, or I stopped lifeguarding, were a lot of my friends that I played water polo with and surfed with, they all went on, and many of them became firefighters and have continued to do so for 25 years or more. And a lot of the folks I'm involved with the Ben Carlson Foundation are professional guards at all levels. I guarded for 1 year through I did the cadet program, and then I guarded for the end of the summer. And I realized for me, being on that hyper aware, hyper vigilant all the time, it's a lot of work, and it's high stress, and it's responsibility. And for me, it took the fun and my passion for the ocean kind of out, because every time I went to the beach thereafter, I was on. And I think that is exactly what we're going to talk about when we talk about the Lifeguard Project, because so much of lifeguarding is, if it's police and fire, it's very overt. It's out there. We see it, we hear it, it's happening on our street, it's happening in our community. We may have a fire truck roll by here. It's big and it's red and it's hard to miss. Lifeguarding is much more, not that it's in the shadows at all, but unless you're at the beach, unless you see, and unless it's right in front of you, you don't know that these things are going on, and they're going on all the time. The number of touches that lifeguards make, whether it's verbal or real rescues, preventatives, whatever, and I don't want to take the vernacular away from you.
You're all good.
But you see it all the time, and getting, again, enough people to understand what's going on and shine a light on the value that segment of first responders provide, I think is wonderful and probably beyond timely
Yeah, and it's not just the shadow. I think a shadow is a good way to describe it, but you can be at the beach and looking at a lifeguard tower, and he's standing there in the sun and looks very passive, right? In their brain, however, is the complete opposite. They're scanning, they're looking at everything that's going on. And I'll take it one step further to say within that, if we're using the metaphor of a shadow of lifeguarding, which it's not in your face all the time, in that shadow, you're going to walk into that shadow and pick up with a Baywatch DVD and go, oh, wait, right. Because people have an entire lens subliminally over their perception of lifeguarding through, oh, it's freaking David Hasselhoff running out, glistening in slow motion. And I'll be the first to admit there are moments that are true in there that happen at the beach because tanning is a byproduct of being at the beach. Yep. And you do have to apply sunscreen all the time. But to go to a lifeguard who just finished doing CPR on the beach and go, oh, do you just tan and check out chicks all day? It's not, it's, I don't want to say disrespectful, but it's just a lack of awareness. That's what I'm trying to shine a light on.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. I love that. So let's do this. Well, let me ask one question and then I'm going to pivot a little bit.
Sure.
Clearly there's a level of passion for this. And again, going back to what we said, like maybe you would have ended up doing something, a golf pro or whatever. There's being a lifeguard and then there's a lifeguard for a couple of years. And he said it's been getting harder and harder to retain people, which blows my mind because when I was a kid, that's all everybody wanted to do. And it was super hard to get it. It's hard to recruit people. In Hawaii, I hear the same thing. It's hard to recruit people to guard because it's not super high paying. It used to be a very well paid job. It's kind of more normalized now. I don't know if people don't want to work that hard. I don't know what it is. It's really surprising to me because it's so important and it's rad. But it looks like you've gone from, we'll go out for we'll try out and see what happens to like a pretty high level of passion within it. Where is your state of being with regard to guarding? Has it been developed? Have you found like this is just part of your calling? Like how is that manifested or evolved?
That's a great question. I think that in the beginning, it was unsuspecting, much like trying out the next day and not knowing what to expect. Then, showing up, first day in a lifeguard tower is absolutely frightening. Ask any lifeguard. Your very first day in a lifeguard tower, you didn't have fun. Yeah. If you did, you're probably doing it wrong. Slowly, through those interactions, through making a few rescues, making a few moments happen where you got this feedback of, whoa, that, I made a difference in that person's life. Or maybe some kid, just saw dolphins for the first time in their life and they're from whatever country and I pointed it out to them. It doesn't have to be this heroic rescue with huge surf and all this stuff. It's these little moments that you can tune into where when you stand there for 8 hours and you're doing that on a daily basis, you look to the tower next to you, both sides, and you trust those people with your own life. You look at the community and you feel like you're getting something back from them. It starts to develop within you like, hey, this is a pretty good life. Like, I'm having fun here. I might be sleeping in my car and getting paid minimum wage, but this person that I just met on the beach just someone handed me a pink slip to their car one time. People invite you to their house to stay the night if you're wherever, or just simple things like I mentioned the dolphin example. So I think that slowly progressed.
Hold on, the dolphin example?
Someone seeing dolphins for their first time in their life, and you said, "Hey, look, there's dolphins," and they wouldn't have otherwise. They're building a sandcastle, right? So that, and then learning those skills, honing them, and then being able to, the example I've always used, and kind of tying it back to your question of photography, lifeguarding, EMS, and those things that I've kind of done with my life. Those are universal. So if I pull you out of the water because you're having trouble in, you name it, body of water throughout the entire world, that will be understood if we don't speak the same language and you have no idea who I am. There's going to be exchange in our eye contact and in our spirit, without getting too out there with it, of whoa, like whether it's a kid, an adult, whatever, like that is a universal human connection being able to grab someone out of harm's way and being aware of it and being the one that makes that change. Photography, right? Art, generally speaking, if someone looks at it, everyone's going to have their own perception of the image, but it's understood in their own way and it's a connection. And then same with EMS. I think just generally speaking, once I learned the basic first aid stuff through lifeguarding, it opened my mind up to the medical world. And guess what that is? It's an understanding of this.
Yeah.
You're like, what is all this stuff that I'm living inside of? There's so many, just for you and I to wake up and have a conversation right now, the amount of things that had to go right in our body to create that to happen comfortably is incredible. And so medically, learning that process and then being able to give it to people who are injured or unhealthy and bring them a little bit further back from, bring them back into health or safety, that's life, right, for me. And so I think, where does my passion come from for that? Is like slowly living through those things and becoming aware of it. Is I might not be the richest person in the world, but man, I just made a difference today at work and I've got a pretty good feeling about that. And being confident that I can do that anywhere in the world until the day that I die, it's pretty cool. Yeah. Just simply that.
Well, you just gave it an incredible dissertation on the value of how it works, why it works, the kind of people that get involved in this. And that same dissertation reinforced exactly why I'm so supportive of first responders, lifeguards, because we need you guys. Like, we need the men and women that are doing the hard friggin' work to protect the community or protect our country or whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. Danny Nichols with Project Open Water was sitting right here, and he used the example of like, hey, Mark, if something bad happens out there, you and I are going to run that way, and the firefighters that are sitting here are going to run into harm's way every single time. I get chicken skin. That's what we need. That we are so grateful, and that's why I think the Lifeguard Project is so important, and we're going to get there in a moment. Because back to the shadow, firefighters, policemen, military, those are the first responders you hear of most. Lifeguards aren't talked about in the same vein, but for the exact reason that you just, or the example you just provided is exactly why we need to give the same kind of clarity, support, again, shine a light on that piece of first responders, those folks that are at the beach every day. Again, Pam Anderson and, Baywatch maybe didn't do a great service, but the people like you that are doing it every day absolutely do. So I just want to say thank you for what you do, and thank you for shining a light on it. Before we get to the Lifeguard Project, the other piece of the Lifeguard Project is your other career, and I don't know if it's full career, side hustle, all of the above, but your creative side, the photography. Let's talk about that, because that for me comes from a place of passion, probably more so than anything else. So why don't you talk about where this came from, what you've done with it, and then we'll go into where you're going with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I started taking photos of water droplets and spider webs in my backyard, being like, wow, this is super cool. Like, look, it's a water droplet on a spider web in the morning light and whatever. Just having a random interest for, I think it came through certain photos that existed, and it must have been a National Geographic magazine. And that's probably the source of a lot of people's inspiration for photography. But seeing a photo, which is the click of a button in a real life moment, generally speaking, without AI and going down that whole thing, and going, oh my God, is this a image of something that's on this earth? And having this insane photo from a photographer that went to this far off place and made this image, going, wow, that's incredible. Where is that? I want to go there. I want to, do that. That it sparks curiosity, it sparks interest. And so being able to deliver that, I think, is super cool, because is just an inspiration for me that came from that's the earliest kind of memory in my brain that I remember photography coming into the options of
How
what to
old
do.
were you when you were taking water droplet photos?
It must have been middle school.
Oh, so okay, really young you picked this up.
Yeah, that we had a technology class in middle school that was like the early roots of Photoshop and doing some photos, and they handed us cameras and went, go take photos of stuff.
Fun.
That progressed to, okay, there's this billboard with the photo on it. Someone got paid to do that. I, technically speaking, understand how to make that photo. I can get paid to do that. I want to get paid to do photos. Long story short, right?
Yeah.
And then so I started working under some professional photographers down in San Diego that were in the sports world, where that's where I learned most of my skills from them, being in it with them, right alongside them, asking questions.
Was that apprenticeship or was that a...
Yeah, an assistant. Yeah, like an assistant. And it would be from gig work to working under the tutelage of someone. That's where I kind of honed in those skills. And then the first question, much like with lifeguarding, if someone asks, like you say, you're a lifeguard. Most people go, oh, wow, must be, there's like a top 3. Must be the best job in the world. Do you just check out chicks all day? Have you ever made a rescue? Those are like the top 3 if you ask lifeguards, when to the untrained eye or the untrained observer. With photography is, oh, cool. Do you like do weddings or landscapes or portraits? And so that's where in the photography world, without Instagram and all the stuff that's changed over the years, you can click the shutter to make money, and you can look up the settings today and start your own photography business and click shutters and take portraits of families on the beach wearing jeans with white shirts on, all matching Christmas cards, weddings. But
why do I hear that's not exactly what you are interested in? Is that what I picked up on?
Yeah, sorry about my tone, but no, it's great. I do it. I do that stuff too. But in my progression, like simultaneously the progression of photography from having that initial stoke and going through it, going, man, is this sustainable to make photos? And unless you're one of the top guys, much like you expressed with not wanting to lifeguard for being on all the time and changing your perception of the beach and your love for the ocean. Photography for me was, man, if I'm just showing up and taking these random photos just to get a couple bucks, like that's not why I like doing it.
Not fulfilling.
Yeah. And so where it all ties in together with the Lifeguard Project is I was in the ambulance station 4 a.m, getting, not a full night's sleep, working a 24-hour shift. And I go, what am I doing with my life? Okay. What do I like doing? I like lifeguarding. What else do I like doing? Photography. How do I combine those two things? And it takes the passion from the lifeguard side of it, and it takes the passion from the photo side of it, and it keeps both of them glued together. And I think fairly pure. I'm trying. And so I can go and teach 200 kids at a lifeguard training to do CPR. And it's really cool because all those kids will go out and inevitably one of them will do it, call back and say, hey man, that worked. And that's one of the craziest things in the world. But if I can make a single image that inspires someone the way I was inspired to continue down about lifeguarding, and that single image inspires thousands of people to understand what we do, to get motivated to look into it a little more, to maybe go learn CPR for themselves, to maybe go apply to be a lifeguard, or to maybe the person that's in charge of our funds bumps it up a couple bucks an hour. You can do that with a photograph in the right context. That's why.
Okay, so you've just walked us right into...
Yeah, sorry, I digressed a little bit.
No, it's perfect. So let's go right in there. It's on your shirt. It's a big initiative that's coming out. Let's start high. So you just kind of framed it, I think, really well. That would be some of the benefit that would come from it. But let's talk about what the Lifeguard Project is. I think you shared a little bit about the why, but what is it going to be, and what is the goal of the Lifeguard Project? Yeah,
so the goal is being able to document the essence of what lifeguarding is. So there's no discrimination on like what agency you work for, what this is. It's lifeguarding. There's a distilled version of what lifeguarding is and the essence of it. And it's happening all over the world in offshoot places. It's happening obviously in California. It's more apparent, I want to document lifeguarding, those feelings, those distilled versions of what it means to be a lifeguard and what lifeguards do, to explain to the public. The basics beginning is, hey, let's revisit the Baywatch mentality that people have about lifeguards, that image that's so ingrained. And I've traveled to a lot of parts of the world. When you tell them you're a lifeguard, the first words that come out of their mouth is, oh, like David Hasselhoff or this, like that. So there's an immediate association, just much like Sharks is to Jaws. Yeah. Lifeguarding is to Baywatch. So step one, put media out there that is showing the actual reality of it, and shedding that skin a little bit. Step two is getting and documenting within the lifeguard community. I mean, there's lifeguards that don't know what kind of lifeguarding is going on throughout different parts of the world, even within California or next door, what these guys and gals are doing. So it's combining all that. All of the agencies in California is where the starting point is. The starting point was also where I started just taking photos during the wintertime. Why? Because what's the first thing? Oh, like, nice summer job, right?
Yeah.
Hey, oh, cool. What else do you do, right? Hey, we're here year round, 365, right? In the winter, when some of the gnarliest stuff happens for lifeguards, rescues, big swell, I mean, flooding events, all this stuff that's been going on lately as well. So the root of that is kind of going against that stereotype first, breaking that down. And now as I progress forward, it's bringing it all together, showcasing stories about lifeguards. I mean, there's lifeguards that have side jobs as lawyers. There's lifeguards that have worked for 40 years, but they're an architect over here. Like, I have got a list, and it goes on for a while. So it's just getting those stories out there, from rescues to what these guys are doing to, like what you're saying, hey, who knew that the junior guards in Huntington Beach are teaching hands-only CPR? That's incredible to me. But if it's just you and I talking about it here, or a couple people listening on a podcast, and eventually that expands, now you've got a photo, okay, now we've got it on a billboard, okay, now someone else is talking about it, and we can involve the community in a bigger scale. That's the idea. That's the goal, is have a spot where lifeguarding can exist unfiltered, and it brings all of the lifeguards together, not just California, but throughout the crazy places that's happening in the world. And guess what? Once again, it ties back to why drowning is happening across all parts of the world. So if I can get a couple more people inspired to do the job, to show up, the guys and gals that are already doing the job, to get paid a little more, then more people are going to want to do it. And, without keeping the goals in the stars, just move that train forward with photos and stories that should be shed light on.
Super rad, and I think an incredible initiative that is due. Because again, it's not that it's covert, it's not that it's in the shadows per se, but it just doesn't have the same, right? You have to be on the beach in front of that tower or at that rip or to see anything go down, as opposed to fire trucks blowing by. You can hear the siren from miles away. Very, very different. And as a result, I think is what I understand from you and just from my other experiences, is as a result, it's just not looked at the same way as police, fire, military. Should it be?
That's the other part of it is, and I don't want to, the last thing I want to do is compare, all my friends are policemen, firefighters, working on the ambulance as paramedics, EMTs, lifeguards. Like, that's the scene that I'm involved with, right? So the last thing I'm going to do is compare lifeguarding to that. But objectively speaking, when you show up to work in swim trunks, it has a different impact to the person who's the untrained observer. And what do people do when they go to the beach? They're there to enjoy their day. They're not there to look at what you're doing. They're here with their family. They're building a sandcastle. They're having fun. They're not in a mindset of understanding the depth of what this career is that's there. They're just like, oh, the lifeguard's there, right? In fact, if anything, they turn off their radar because the lifeguard's there, right? So should it be? I'm not going to answer that right now, because I think that will answer itself once this project progresses enough. There's a million stories, a million examples. If you look at the photos and tune into the stories and do it, judge it for yourself. The one thing I will say about the difference of lifeguarding is that it's more preventative than the other occupations that we talked about, right? I can't prevent someone from smoking cigarettes their whole life and getting COPD for when I go on a call as a paramedic to their house. If I walk up to a family that they're walking towards the rip current, I say, hey, how's it going? My name's Drasko, I'm a lifeguard. Just want to give you guys a quick tip today. Do you mind setting your stuff up over here? Because right in front of where you're going to set up, which is inadvertently where you're going to go in the water, there's a massive rip current. And they might not know what that means. They might not know.
Sure.
And for me, it could be like the gnarliest rip current I've seen in my life. But we just had a conversation. They sat over there, and that affected their entire life. So, and that's the difference. So now, as they say too, a good lifeguard doesn't necessarily have to make a rescue because you've done the preventative side of it. And once you've had enough critical rescues, you don't want to make those rescues because it's not fun. The person's not having fun. We don't want to deal with death and negativity at the beach. We want everyone to go in there and have a good day. So the preventative side of it prevents us from getting seen. You know, you got a picture of a car accident on the freeway with the fire trucks and everything. You're like, oh my God, that happened.
And there's no preventative nature of that. Right?
Well, yeah, you can't directly prevent, but that is people see that, they drive past the freeway and go, oh my God, thank God those guys are there, right?
Yep.
With lifeguarding, if I talk to everyone on the beach and didn't make a whole rescue, I'm exhausted by the end of the day. My brain's been working, and inadvertently, you've affected the nature of where that day was going to go. But no, there's nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
That's what separates us from, well, so why don't we know? Why are we, quote unquote, the metaphor we've been going back to, why are we in the shadows with it? By doing the job good, you hide what job is.
Well, from like a KPI, key performance indicator standpoint, one of the key metrics with lifeguarding from my memory and just from hearing you is that wet or dry preventative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the number of touches, the number of times you can intervene before there's a situation is the key to the whole thing. And as a result, you're having less of those, what I believe you called it, a critical rescue. Hallelujah, that's the goal, right? Keep everybody safe before they go in the water.
Yeah.
But I think the public probably wouldn't understand that as a key metric
It's
because
difficult.
it's not sexy. It's like you just
Correct.
talk to some people. Well, we talked to them out of going in the water where they could drown, right? It's a big deal from a lifeguard or from a knowledge-based perspective. But from somebody on the beach, they were just talking.
Look at the lifeguard. He's just talking these chicks up,
Yeah.
right? Like that's
I'm
the
sure
perception.
there's some of that. I mean, come on, but no.
Like I said before, I'll be the first to admit. But the point is to be able to read how the ocean works and deliver that information accordingly and have that awareness is what our training is about. So just to be able to have that conversation, you have to have a 16-year-old kid does not come up to lifeguarding because they did an interview well. A 16-year-old kid gets hired for lifeguarding because they possess the quality, they've put the time in the pool, swimming, water polo, whatever, at the very minimum, surfing and understanding the ocean and body surfing. And so they come in with this prerequisite of knowledge that's taken their entire lifetime to gain. For us to deem them appropriate to sit in a lifeguard tower to be able to make those conversations. You can't translate that to the public that is the training. And of course, then there is, like you referred to it, the sexy stuff, which is sprinting down the beach, putting your fins on, grabbing someone out of the ocean, right? Or doing a first aid or something.
Yeah. Well, I want to just highlight something you just said. It's always super inspiring to me, but it's also this heavy weight. So when you started, when I had the chance to start and pivoted, but the number of kids that are coming out of the junior guard program and out of water polo, they're freshmen or sophomores in high school that are being trained by people like you, taught, instructed to save lives at 16 or 17 years old. What's the long-term impact on people that have gone through that? At 16 years old, they have the responsibility and the training to save lives every day. They're empowered. 16 or 17, I see some kids that could use that. But talk about what the potential impact on people that go through the program and become lifeguards at 16, 17 and are doing incredibly important, life-changing, life-saving work.
Yeah, that's a loaded question, but I'll use a couple examples because I can speak for myself in that it matured me very quickly and taught me responsibility, not just about work and working a job, but in life. And it gives you a lens and an awareness to not just safety, but how humans work and function, how you can talk to people, and real responsibility with real consequences, which a lot of the times these days is starting to fade away, I think. We have 16-year-old kids every year, and you get the story, day one, they do CPR. I've got a list of stories. That's why the project is existing. But if you're going to allow your 16-year-old son or daughter to go to their first job and see a dead body, and I'm using an extreme example. Some people might not see a dead body their whole entire life, right? And you're going to say, hey, mom and dad, this could be day one.
That's powerful, huh? Oof, heavy.
Yeah, and I don't like using extreme examples, but it's more lighthearted than it sounds. The root of that is if they go through this training, that's what we check off the list. And a 16-year-old kid can possess those qualities. And if a 16-year-old kid possesses those qualities and you let them out into the world, they're going to be a good human. They're going to have responsibility. They're going to become more mature. And I mean, ask the parents, don't ask me. There is a change within, some academies ranging from 8 to 20 days that are in all lifeguarding in California and stuff. There's a change that happens in that time, especially when we're talking about the younger kids. And generally speaking, most lifeguards that are coming into the profession are, let's call it, less than 25. So to be able to keep on track with your question, what the impact is, I think it's a positive one. To see something negative happen, to be prepared for it, and to respond. On the other side of that is this insane amount of confidence that comes from it, and sense of responsibility, and a visceral awareness, and kind of shakes your foundation of, whoa, the world, oh my God, this just got real. And I think we need more people to be aware of that. And guess what? That's the first person that's going to hold the door open for someone, walk the old lady across the street when they're not at work.
Yeah.
Because you do not walk away from that job and forget about that moment for the rest of your life, Mark.
Now, I would imagine that with your EMS and all the stuff and lifeguard, you're always on. Mm-hmm. Always on, right? Danny Nichols, Open Water, their whole organization focuses on helping first responders, because with like the headspace and the wellness side of it and all the tools and tactics to do it, because when you are on a 48-hour paramedic shift on a very, very busy weekend or at any time, you're always on. A lifeguard's always on. The public like me, we go to home, sit on the couch, go to bed, we're good. When you're working on short hours of sleep, always ready to go, that takes a real physical potential impact. Call it what it is, right? But it's the hypervigilance, you're always on, that sets off all kinds of other things in individuals. That's hard on psyche. That's hard on families. Right? How much of shining a light on that is really important part of the Lifeguard Project?
Yeah, well, and that's the point, is a lot of the stuff that exists on lifeguarding and media is, hey, we did this, we did these stats, we did those things, we did this, blah, 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 blah. Let's talk about, when your kid comes home and they had a crazy day at work, and how does that affect the rest? Those stories need to get shed light on. And a lot of times it's these harsh examples that are the ones that really activate someone to stick around. Because they go, whoa, that was bad, but that was also kind of cool that I was able to be the one in that moment to affect someone's life in a positive way. And showcasing those stories is, I believe, where people can kind of start bringing it home. The public, your average person, it's like you used the example, hey, I'm sitting at home, I'm turning it off. maybe I should ask my kid about the day at work at lifeguarding, because I saw that call on the news about, someone getting hoisted out with a helicopter and blah, blah, and he was working in that tower there. I wonder if how does that work afterwards,
Right.
So that's the ability, like, you're not going to see that media showcased on your local department's page because they're supposed to put a certain filtered aspect of media to showcase what the department is doing. And some of these things do get touchy. I think that it's important to share the stories in a way that does showcase some of that personal side of it, because then other people can connect with it more deeply, more profoundly. And like I said, I'm using extreme examples, but it's not all extreme. But there's simple details, to it that you can present to people that go, oh man, that's kind of like me, or that's how I felt, or man, I was totally scared when I did that too. This is something that even if you're not a lifeguard, like, lifeguarding exists. And let me tie it all together with an example, and forgive me for digressing. When a mom goes to the park and their kid's playing on the jungle gym, what's mom doing? Every so often her eyes, okay, make sure he's not getting to that part. There's that part off the edge of the thing where the slide is that could fall off, right? And you're like, oh, he's getting kind of close. Okay, cool, I'm reading my book, but I'm checking. That's lifeguarding.
Yeah.
Awareness of a safety issue and preparedness to respond to it, and being the one that's going to choose and that's designated to respond, like the example that you used at the backyard pool where everyone's partying, right? What's the difference? Awareness, spotting a safety issue. These are things all humans can connect with. And above and beyond with these stories, the sense of community, the trust you develop with other lifeguards for doing that work. Let's talk about the friendships you create within that profession when you're side by side with someone, bringing in people and helping them. Let's talk about the impacts, from there. So all of these things, it's not just lifeguarding. The Lifeguard Project is distilling lifeguarding, showcasing the light on it. But I believe the public and people who aren't lifeguards can find a little piece of that within themselves, because lifeguarding is happening every day with everything we do, right?
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I think those qualities in a human make better humans. And so if we could do that through lifeguarding for more humans, the world's going to be a better place.
Hallelujah, brother. I love that. And what's really neat is you get to tie both of your passions together, lifeguarding and the whole EMS side of it, with storytelling and the creative photography side, to build something that sounds like it's really unique. Is this different than anything else that you've ever seen out there?
That's the thing that I've been trying to navigate, right, is what exists with lifeguard media today, right? There's Baywatch, there's the new Baywatch.
Not really lifeguarding at all, right?
There's a lot of the fire departments and that are connected, the lifeguard departments that are connected through the fire service are seeing the benefit of putting media out there to showcase what their lifeguards are doing, because it's a direct correlation. And guess what? Your lifeguards are the feeder program for police, firefighters, all these jobs that pay a little bit more that you can actually make, quote unquote, a career out of. And in lifeguarding, we always joke like, oh, well, what's your real job? You lifeguard, cool, but what's your real job? And these guys have these, it doesn't have to be me talking about it on a podcast. Go to the beach, ask the lifeguard in your tower, in the unit, what's your other job? What's the other thing that supplies your livelihood? Because, man, the rent, all these places, all the costs of living these days in California, let alone other places.
Yeah.
Look at the lifeguard salaries. I don't have to say anything about it. Those people are finding the significance, the departments of putting the media out there on social media to get the knowledge out there. But it's filtered in a certain way, right? The HR department has to sign off on it. And I'm not saying that stuff that I'm doing is not signed off by the HR department, but it's stuff that to the untrained observer, people aren't going to value as a story that I believe through the right perspective, people can see and resonate with, that hasn't been told, or that hasn't been told to enough people.
Got it.
So to answer the question without digressing once again, is this unique? Let the work speak for itself. If you see an image on the Lifeguard Project that you've never seen before, that sparks awareness within your mind to go, wow, I didn't know lifeguards did that, or wow, that's a really cool shot I've never seen before, then it will answer itself. So I don't want to say that it's unique, but I believe it's a different approach than what the other things that exist on lifeguarding, that have existed on lifeguarding is. So that's my angle. And I believe that's where some of the power is as well. And some of the value is within that, being able to showcase those really gritty stories from the ground. Like I'm there with them, riding along, sitting all day with a camera and getting moments that are unseen.
I love that. That's so cool. Again, somebody that their other career is an attorney isn't going to be able to help shine a light on. They'll be able to provide a lot of value somewhere else. But what a neat, cool opportunity to take the two things that you're really good at and love, put them together to shine a much brighter light on this topic.
And then that attorney's writing the fine print paperwork for us to get paid more. No, but seriously, but this is where, so this is navigating. I want to empower not just the public, but the lifeguards too. Hey guys, you know this to be true. We haven't talked about it. The public has no idea. Let's bring this all together in one place, the Lifeguard Project, to have some advocation for ourselves, to promote ourselves in a professional way, to get that message out there, to improve and lift lifeguarding in general up. And hey, like I said, in the end, maybe pay them a couple extra bucks too. Is
that the magic wand objective? If I had a magic wand, Drasko, what do you hope to see come from the Lifeguard Project? Is that it? It's to shine, to make everybody more aware, both the general population that rely on your services, as well as the internal folks that make decisions around the funding and support? Is that really the end all be all? It's just, this is what lifeguarding does and provides. This is the value of it. Everybody needs to know this because everybody wins when we support you better.
I would say yes. And for lifeguards themselves to just like have that sense of community and a place to go for all these things to be shared. Like there's something to be said about sharing those stories and having them known as well. We've been our own worst critics on that kind of stuff. And simultaneously, if a lifeguard shares something, I show up to you and I start just blabbing about my best rescue and how big the surf was and all stuff, you're gonna be like, this guy's kind of like full of himself, whatever. So,
so it's like there's that humble pride aspect of it.
Yeah. So the magic wand piece is, if the public knows what we do, they're more aware, they're going to respect that, and they're going to benefit from it because they can go up, have a conversation with us that might change their life. If the lifeguards have a place where they can share their stories, showcase what they actually do, they're going to have a better sense of lifeguarding and project that message to people. If we have a foundation of good lifeguards that stick around, we're going to have more kids coming in inspired and learning and being good people of the society. If we can inspire junior guards to continue to do these things and learn these responsibilities early on, be safe around water, we're changing the problems with drowning, etc. And in the end, if the HR department that works there too goes, hey, maybe we should pay them a little more. Absolutely.
Super cool. All right. I think you just encapsulated it. I mean, that's what I was hunting for. Like, what is the mission? What's the objective? I think you just really outlined it well. That's awesome. Goal, yeah. I can't wait to see what this looks like. And what's really neat is you are partnering with a great organization that I know very well, the Ben Carlson Foundation. Where is that a symbiotic relationship? I know the great work they do. I'm learning a lot more about the great work you're doing. Where does that come together and to what end?
I think where that comes together is that our mission is the same. The stuff that I just described. As a lifeguard, and I can speak for myself and probably for a majority of lifeguards, what the Ben Carlson Foundation came from and what it originated from is the extreme of what can happen with lifeguarding.
When you say the extreme of what can happen with lifeguarding,
performing a rescue and dying from performing a rescue because of the inherent dangers of the profession.
Which, for those that might not know, Ben Carlson died in the line of duty coming up on 10 years ago during an incredible swell, and he is a local absolute legend, icon, and I think that was the first lifeguard lost in the line of duty in close to 100 years here in Newport Beach, but it has moved the community.
Correct.
and maybe even more of a global community as a result.
And we can have a whole podcast just about that subject too. Because it rocked the lifeguard world, and it's such an extreme example of what can happen. And that's when people started. Why is that what it took for people to start kind of engaging with lifeguarding? So the things aforementioned that I described coincide with what I believe the Ben Carlson Foundation is also promoting, what their goals and what they're rooted in. So the partnership within that it's symbiotic in the way of, hey, let me help you, you help me. So we are helping each other follow the same track through different ways. They have the scholarship going. They're raising money every year. They're putting, lifeguard equipment into other parts of the world. They're engaging, just like the local community here has had, you can speak on it better than I can, but the community of Newport regarding respecting lifeguarding and knowing what it is and putting that on the map here. Look at the change that's been made in such a short amount of time. So together with that partnership, I believe that can just become exponential and encompass more stuff. And when we sat down and talked initially about all of this stuff coming together, that's where the beauty of all this is the root of what we're trying to do is on the same track. And that's where our benefit is.
That's awesome.
And so if I can help expand that message anyway, then it's symbiotic. We're helping each other, and together it's going to get a whole new momentum as well.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't have partnered with a more passionate group of people that have a very, very, very clear vision of water safety and helping other groups around the country. They are so involved in so many things, and I think that it seems like a wonderful partnership because everybody being the Ben Carlson Foundation and you, and I suspect there's going to be a lot of support around this from everybody in your world for exactly all the reasons that you've shared. So I think that's a hell of a partnership, and really exciting to see where that goes. I guess the question, and maybe you've already answered it, but 5 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever it is, what does winning look like from the Lifeguard Project? Is it the awareness and the funding and everything, those kind of three buckets you talked about? Or is there if 5 years from now we're sitting here and you can look back on it, how do you know that it's made the difference you're aiming for?
I think I would refine the word winning. I think I've already won. And let me explain that. I've already shown images. I've been at this for 3 years. Let's talk about the shadows.
Yeah. Right.
I've been taking photos on my own and separating myself from, you got to come into it with a different perspective. You can't be lifeguarding and be distracted by taking photos. So I've devoted this time to be there for these moments that happen. I've already shown images to people, even if it's just a friend on my phone. Hey, look at this shot I got last week up in Humboldt or wherever. Places. Wait, there's lifeguards there, first of all. Second of all, whoa, this photo. Oh my God, whoa, that is an incredible image. I'm not the world's best photographer. I'm not saying that I'm going to take the best photos in the world. But the inspiration that's come from certain things that I've already managed to document speaks for itself. So like I said before, if one person looks at a photo and goes and tries out to be a lifeguard, and then they end up somewhere down their career saving someone's life, or they end up like me, half their life now is gone to lifeguarding and they're just stoked. That's already happening. These things they've been happening. As far as measurements of, and I don't even want to use the word success, but measurements of in 5 years, partnership with the Ben Carlson Foundation and the Lifeguard Project, I want this to be a place where people can, it is connecting people from around the world to the essence of lifeguarding. It is spreading education. It is spreading inspiration. It is spreading all the positive things that we can do with today's day and age with media and storytelling and all that stuff. So in 5 years, I guess I just want what's already happening on a small scale for people to look and recognize and go, oh yeah, that's the Lifeguard Project, man. They're doing some pretty cool stuff. And did you see all that stuff that just came out about this place, that place, and all the changes, funding for the right places, funding for the right people, motivation. Hey, Drasko, I saw that one write-up you did on Lifeguard Project. Man, that's what made me want to be a lifeguard. If we say winning or success, like that's it for me. That's already happening. Let's see it on a bigger scale where people are really resonating with it and making positive change.
Rad. Super cool. Let me ask you this. What's going to be the format? For instance, with all this imagery that you're going to be producing, if I go, oh my God, look at that image. I want that up on the wall in my office. Am I going to be able to purchase? I mean, is that part of it? Can I buy imagery from you or print? Will stuff be available? Will it be a book? Will it only be online? What do you think this looks like?
The idea is all of the above, right? In today's day and age, I mean, people are scrolling past stuff faster than a split second, and they're distracted. So yeah, I think, and that's where it's progressed from initially, where I've just started taking photos and it's not really existed on a bigger scale. I want there to be images online that people can access. Obviously, social media, those kinds of things where people can interact with it, share it, progress the story. I want the lifeguard departments to be able to use the photos, because a lot of time the photos that are being taken when you're lifeguarding are not the best that you can take if someone is solely dedicated there to make an image. Yeah. So I want for them to have access to be able to promote themselves as well professionally. And then, if a coffee table book comes out or other products associated, sure. But just any way that people can get access to it, and that's where it's expanding, and it's still fairly new, right? This is the starting point. Long term, maybe a documentary that people can watch that ties a lot of stuff together to get it out to people. All of the above, really, as far as access and just getting that information out there to resonate with people.
And so for today, if somebody wants to find out more and go find the Lifeguard Project and see what's put together, how do they find you?
Yeah,
how do they find it?
Absolutely. thelifeguardproject.org, at the Lifeguard Project for social media, and same the Lifeguard Project at gmail.com if you want to send me an email that has anything to do with, hey, I got this cool story. Hey, what about coming to our agency? Didn't see any of our stuff there, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, have you thought about this? Here's an image. What do you think about this shot that I got that no one else has? So,
and if somebody wanted to, if watching this or hearing you or looking at the Lifeguard Project inspires someone to go, fudge, I want to be a lifeguard. I want to get into this world. How do you recommend someone go down that path? I'm assuming it's someone that's going to have water background, whether swimming, water polo, surfing, whatever. So it's not like somebody that has no experience, but if somebody in the world of water goes, wow, I want to go there. What's the path? What would you recommend?
Yeah, and I would even say that some of our best lifeguards are ones that didn't start with an insane amount of water experience. Now, obviously, to be a lifeguard, you have to know how to swim. That's goes without saying. Some of the best lifeguards are the ones that weren't your stereotypical lifeguard that came to the beach and put the work in the ocean to learn how to do that. Wow. Once again, here's where we align with the Ben Carlson Foundation, right? He broke the mold from living in Riverside, coming out here and putting that work in. So you give me any kid, person, whatever, that's motivated, that's inspired, that wants to do something, there is a path, and everyone's path might look a little different. The kid that is playing water polo at Long Beach that's also a professional surfer, I'm going to have to direct a different way to a different place and teach them different things than the person who's, hey, I'm on the JV swim team, but I'm not quite there yet, but I'm super motivated about this. I want to be a paramedic one day, but I think lifeguarding is a great start because no one else wants to hire me until I'm 18, 20, 21, whatever. What do you think about that as a resume builder? I have my personal advice. You have a plethora of people to look up to regarding other lifeguards and things. So with this project, I can't recommend like a specific agency or specific thing, but the pathway is there, and find someone that can guide you through it as far as what experience you need to make the next steps to becoming a lifeguard and learning those skills. But yeah, if you want to send me an email at the Lifeguard Project, feel free, I'll do my best. Or that's the point of the project is, hey, chief whoever, battalion chief this, of that, I got this whole group of kids that are fired up, boom, here. What's their path to becoming, you name the agency, lifeguards here? That's the goal, right? Is making that glue, making those connections for people to find those pathways if they are so inspired.
Rad. So cool. I love what you're doing. And I just want to thank you for, I think I've overused this term, but like it really is shining a light on the lifeguard services, which is an international essential service for all the reasons we've talked about. Thank you for your level of passion in finding ways to make it more vibrant, to help the public like me understand it better for all the reasons we also hit on. It's really interesting because it's so nuanced, right? Like, again, probably the biggest takeaway is a preventative action is one of the most important things that you guys do and probably gets the least amount of credit. And so now people that hear this will go, oh, when I see that person talking to that person, that's way more going on there than just having a chat on the beach. That is saving potentially a life or lives. It's a huge distinction once you understand what you're looking at, right?
Like, you hit it on the head.
There's a magnifying glass that a lot of us didn't probably have before once you have that awareness. I love that. Is there anything else before we go related to what you do in the services of helping people, helping communities, coaching, teaching, leading within it that you'd like to share or should be shared?
I don't think there's anything that I haven't touched. I mean, you and I, we can talk forever about this for the next 8 hours, right? So we can go story time and all that stuff. But like I said, I think the root of this is I got plucked from Serbia and dropped into San Diego. There was nothing written in my path that meant I was supposed to be a lifeguard. It happened. Here I am right now doing this. Within that process was this molding of passion, skills, and an awareness of life that's brought me to this point that I'm pretty happy with. And so that is transferred to others. And that's the goal. I mean, we're all going to die one day. So leave something good behind that you can. So for me, whether it's teaching one kid at a farmer's market to do hands-only CPR, or 200 kids in the lifeguard classroom to do really, really good CPR, to showing someone an image halfway across the world about lifeguarding that they go, wow, that's pretty cool. I never saw it that way. I mean, you can make really cool, positive change, inspiration, education, and then the whole world, I think, becomes a better place. So that's what I've learned in that time. That's why I'm wasting my time doing this stuff.
There's not one wasted second.
I know, I ingest, but that's why I'm doing it alongside with everything else that I'm doing. And so if I can spread that to a couple other people, that's what I've learned. And I think it's going to work.
I have no doubt. Thanks for the passion. Thank you for the commitment to what you're doing for all the reasons. Thank you for all the lives you've impacted and will, whether it be people in the service or those you've helped or served in the community. Thanks for the 48-hour shifts in honor of those of us that are on the couch. And thanks for bringing that level of passion here to the Passion Project. I really appreciate it.
Mark, thanks for having me here and putting the work in on your end for making this happen as well.
Right on. Well, here's a big high five to the Lifeguard Project.
Right on.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Cool.